Hello and welcome to Algebra 1, the start of Chapter 11. Chapter 11 is called Rational Expressions and Equations. And today we're going to discuss 11.2, which is rational expressions. And there's three things we need to talk about in 11.2. And so that first of all is, well, what is a rational expression? It'd be good to know if we're doing a chapter on rational expressions. We're going to talk about excluded values. And we're also going to talk about simplifying basic rational expressions. So those three topics here. So first of all, what is a rational expression? Well, we probably need to head back quite a ways back in Algebra 1 to what's a rational number. So way back in like Chapter 1 we talked about number systems, and a rational number was defined as an integer over an integer. Okay, so otherwise called a fraction. So a rational number was any number that can be written as a fraction. Well, now though we're looking at rational expressions. So what we're going to have is some polynomial over some other polynomial. So for example, maybe we have x squared plus 3x over 2x minus 9. That's a rational expression. And then the question is, does it simplify? And how can I simplify it? Before we talk about simplifying it though, we need to talk about excluded values. Alright, so excluded values. If you are dealing with a fraction, okay, so let's look at x minus 3 over x plus 5. If I have this fraction here, the question on excluded values is what can x not be? Okay, and so one thing we might look at is, are we concerned about the top of this fraction at all? Can the top be anything? Can the top of a fraction be negative? Can the top of a fraction be 0? Can the top of a fraction be positive? Okay, I can show you examples of all those. Top of a fraction negative, top of a fraction 0, that just equals 0, top of the fraction positive. I can do all that. The key thing is though, what can the bottom of the fraction not be? Okay, and what we know is that the denominator cannot equal 0. And if you can't read my cannot, let's try that one more time. Not equal to 0. So to find out what x can't be, set the denominator equal to 0. So we have x plus 5 equals 0. Subtract 5 from both sides. X equals negative 5. That's the answer to what can x not be. X can't be negative 5, because if you plug a negative 5 in for x, you are going to get 0 on the bottom of a fraction, and you can't have 0 on the bottom of a fraction. So I want you to take a minute and pause the video, and I want to know what can b not be. Okay, so take a second, pause the video. So hopefully you found that b cannot be 7. Or if you wrote b equals 7, what you're doing is you're answering the question, what can x not be? X can't be equal to 7. Really depends on how the question is phrased. So our next task was to simplify a basic equation, a basic rational expression, and this actually has its concepts back in our exponent rules. And you probably saw expressions exactly like these back in exponent rules. So let's look at 32x to the 5th y squared over 4xy to the 7th. And we want to simplify this. Okay, this is a rational expression. This is a polynomial over a polynomial. So we have a monomial over a monomial. So remember that first we look at our numbers. And so 32 over 4 reduces to 8. All right. And then you're going to look at your x's. And what do you do when you are dividing? What do you do with your exponents when you're dividing? Subtract your exponents, so that gives you x to the 4th, because that's an x to the 1st on the bottom. And then we're going to look at our y's. And if we follow our exponent rules, what that does is that gives us y to the negative 5th, because we got 2 minus 7. But can we have a negative exponent? No, we can't. So we take that negative exponent and we move that term to the bottom, or that value there. So y goes to the bottom. So that's simplifying rational expressions. So I want you to take a second and I want you to simplify 14a cubed b squared over 42ab cubed, and be careful with that fraction, or that those numbers. There's a hint, it's going to go down into a fraction. So take a second, pause the video, work that out. So I get a squared over 3b as my simplified value. Okay, that's all we're going to talk about in this lesson. We're going to have another lesson on 11.2 about simplifying slightly more complex rational expressions. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in class.